Well, hi guys, this is my story. I'm born on the east coast of Iceland in a tiny fishing village. The first 7 years of my life were very normal. When I say normal, for most people, I grew up in a town of 1,500 people. But what I saw as normal was that was my reality, that was my world. I came from a relatively happy family. Everything was okay until my father passed away in an accident at sea when I was 7 years old. And from that day onwards, my life, my reality just went sideways. Everything went downhill. Like I said, I was 7 years old and I didn't realize that we were poor until much later on in life. And when I say that is because when my father died, my mother was 24 years old with 3 kids, me and 2 of my sisters, and she couldn't afford to have us all. So I was basically left to fend for myself, more or less. That being said, I got some support, and but what came were a few years of, well, really tough time. And I met a lot of both good people and bad people, and it is just a fact. But I grew up tough, I grew up quick because I had to, and I learned to survive. When I was 11 years old, my mom remarried, and I moved back home, which was not a good idea. Me and my stepfather, we clashed quite badly. There was quite a lot of violence, and so when I'm 15 years old, it's the first time I fought back, and it's the first time I got a sense of victory. Like, I felt victorious, I felt good. I was very successful. I was very good at school, very good at sports, but I was very broken. Like, I remember I couldn't tell the truth. I was ashamed of being me. I was ashamed of being the only boy that didn't have shoes, the only boy who didn't have socks. As you can imagine, it's a small community. Everybody knew who I was, but I was trying to lie to everybody that I, lived in a mansion outside of town, and just, silly things like that, which you don't realize when you're a kid. Everybody knew everything about me, but nobody corrected me. The good thing was, when I was a kid, like I said, I grew up quick, and I started having an eye for money, and I did anything and everything for money, because both I tried to support my sisters, and I needed money to live. When I was 15 years old, after having one of the fights with my stepfather, I went to my uncle's house, me and his son, my cousin, and I asked him to give me a drink. I wanted to try to drink alcohol, and I will never ever forget that moment. It's the first time in my life I felt that I could breathe out and I could relax. I felt good. And like everything else in my life, I'm very extreme, and I've always been, probably always will be, but I dropped everything. I more or less stopped going to school, started showing up at school drunk, and I didn't care. Stopped all sports, played my last volleyball game drunk, and I didn't care, because I found a solution. I found a solution to my, this anxiety, this constant pain that I thought back then everybody felt like this. I thought everybody lived with this, gaping hole, and this, this panic, this pain, this misery. But alcohol took it away from me, and it just shut it off. So, to make a long story short, when I'm 17 years old, I'm a full-blown alcoholic. I'm completely unmanageable. I was on a fishing trawler, just drank with much older men, drank every single time I could. Was either, there was no joy in my drinking, even, straight away. I was either really angry, or crying. Like joy for me didn't exist, but still, I would rather be drunk to take away my pain and not have any memories than just be me. So when I'm 17 years old, my mom finally just threw me out for the last time, and the people in the town hall, basically asked me nicely just if I would relocate. So I was deeply offended, but I was, well, the older men that I had been on sea with, they told me that Denmark, Copenhagen would be a very liberal place. There is space for everybody, everybody's partying. And so I decided to pack the little things that I have in a backpack and took my last paycheck and moved to Denmark. I promised myself that I wouldn't drink until I would have a steady job and a place to live. I went to the airport. The alcohol was cheap, so I decided to have a drink, and of course I finished everything and finished all my money, drank until I didn't have anything more, and started living on the streets in Denmark, more or less. And I liked it. I funnily enough, I liked it. And for me, it was like I got to know 3 prostitutes that were like working there, and I started protecting them, helping them. They offered me a room if I would just keep on protecting them, helping them. And so I moved in with them, and to me, I had a job, I had a roof over my head, and they introduced me to drugs. And for me, that was such a revelation. Like, I felt like somebody had given me a menu to life. Like, and I was very curious, I was very into it, like, because I'm a 17-year-old, naive young boy, never seen streetlights, never seen buses, never seen, like, I come from a tiny, tiny town. And I bought myself credentials when I came there that I was 22. I didn't tell a living soul that I was 17. And I remember, like, I thought I found the solution. Like, there were so many drugs, and I could just decide how I would wanted to feel, if I wanted to sleep, if I wanted to stay awake, if I wanted this and wanted that. But for me, having next to no income, it was very expensive. So I went into this mode. I had to make money. And there was a candle factory that I walked past like a few times. I decided to get a job there. And when I say I decided to get a job there, I did. I just went there every morning and applied for a job until I got a job. And the reason why was, well, I'll come to that later. I started coming in 6 o'clock in the morning, staying till late. I was a 22-year-old on papers, and very soon, I think it was 3-4 weeks, they gave me a managing position and I got keys to the place. So I started going in at night, putting hashish and, well, all kinds of drugs into the candles, which were big decorative candles, outside candles, sold mainly to churches and flower stores and things. And I started sending and shipping them all over Scandinavia and started making a lot of money. And this is when I felt I was somebody. Finally, I was the guy people came to. I felt I was something. I felt important. I felt like I felt like something. I wasn't the lowest of the low. I felt. Again, really naive and stupid. I moved the girls and myself out to the suburbs into a house, got myself a car and a motorbike, constant, well, I say constant party. It was just like a den, a druggy den. But I felt like I was somebody and people could rely on me and yeah, it's just, but yeah, a few months later, I got into a fight, late night partying, and I freaked out. I was terrified, scared. I fought back and ran away from the scene. And the morning after, the police comes knocking on the door, and I got arrested. And I was so stupid and naive that all the older guys had told me, like, if you ever get into contact with the police, just say nothing. Don't say anything. And I took it that literally, that I just said nothing. Not even my name, not how old I was, nothing. Not even good morning, not yes or no, nothing. I just kept silent. And I honestly thought that is what they meant. And so I didn't want to disappoint anybody, so I just did that. Being a 17-year-old in a prison with a lot of course, fully grown men and serious criminals. It was only for a week, but it felt like years for me, because even if I was big and strong, I've always been, I was terrified. I was insanely scared, and I was terrified the whole time. And so I was quite relieved when they came into my cell and they addressed me with my name. And I remember I was very, very shocked. And they said, okay, you got two options. Either you get evicted from Denmark, we'll get you a ticket home, or you will have to appear in front of a judge. And I, of course, back then, I took the first option, I want to just be sent away. So I got a lift straight to the airport. I should have taken the second option because I was a kid being jailed as an adult, but I just didn't know anything. I was quite naive. So I had to go home with my tail between my legs, called my mom, asked if I could stay. She said I could stay if I promised, I could stay for a few days, X amount of time, if I promised only to drink once a month, no more, and get a job straight away until I would find myself a place. And, I remember, okay, my party days are over, now I'll just start living a normal life. And when I promised my mom and my sisters that I would only drink once a month or so, I meant it from the bottom of my heart, I did. And I don't know, 3-4 days after I started working, I got a job straight away. And in this small, back to this small fishing village where I come from. And a friend of mine comes with 3-4 beers after work, and we were going to have 3-4 beers. I wake up, I come to, it's not like I just woke up. I come to and started getting to my senses about a week later in a druggy party in Reykjavik, which is the capital of Iceland, which is a 7-hour drive from where I had those 3 beers. And I can honestly say that is the first time that I realized and just, I had no control. This was not my plan, because I had promised that I wouldn't do this, and I intended to keep my promise, but I wasn't able to. I just wasn't able to. Very soon after that, I went into my first rehab, and then I just turned 18 and I went into rehab. And I wanted a better life. I wanted to feel happy, because I was still, lying, cheating, I was insecure, I was I always lived with this constant terror and pain and mental pain. Well, I go into this rehab and they told me, stop drinking and drugging and your life will be fine. And they told me all kinds of ways to do that. And I tried. I did. I stopped drinking and drugging. But I didn't feel really good. I felt like my life was dull. It was not exciting at all. And I can honestly say there was nothing that excited me. And this, even at the age of 18, I had very dramatic suicidal thoughts. Not that I wanted to kill myself, but I didn't want to live. So I set myself a goal. I had this target that I wanted a house and a Mustang. And I honestly thought if I would get a small house and a Mustang, then I would be happy. So I started working insanely. That has never been a problem for me, work. But in a few months, I think it was exactly between 9 and 10 months, I had a house and I had the Mustang. And I remember I was really, really happy for a few days. And I remember how devastating it was, feeling that this didn't fix anything, it didn't change anything. I reached my goal. I honestly believed this would be, a turning point. And because I wanted to be like other people, I wanted to be just normal. And so I started drinking again, and I started trying to control my drinking, stayed sober for a few weeks, then had a long bender, just until I found this advertisement online from PBA, which stands for Professional Bodyguard Association. And I remember that there was like a lightning that hit my head. This was going to save me. This was my problem. And I remember I was so happy because I found out, because I was constantly searching, how can I actually get better? What do I have to do? And so I thought I had found the solution there. I thought that I needed discipline in my life. And because I grew up without a father, and I didn't really have any discipline. So I thought this was the solution. So I started telling everybody about it. Long story short, I got accepted into PPA. Started telling everybody about it, training for it. And there was a journalist that wanted to get me for an interview. And he asked me if honestly I thought that I would finish this, that I would be able to graduate this. And again, me being as naive as I was, my English wasn't perfect and far from it. And I had no clue what I had gotten myself into, really. And so I remember I was so shocked. Why on earth would I not finish this? I was offended. I thought I was going just for some bodyguard course or something, because I had very limited understanding what I had gotten myself into. But when I got there, I really understood. It was a special forces training, which is, we were 74 that started, we were 4 that graduated. And I can honestly say that I can thank this journalist for me finishing, because I didn't want to go back home as a loser. I didn't want to go back home, I didn't graduate, I didn't get it, I didn't make it, because I had felt like a loser and an underdog my whole life. And so this was the thing that was supposed to make me. And when I graduated, I remember the lieutenant came to me and said, okay, you're ready. And I was so proud and I was so happy. And it's not just because I had finished, but also because I had proven to myself that I wasn't a drug addict or an alcoholic, because I hadn't touched drugs or alcohol the whole time. So I was allowed to go to a hotel the night before my graduation, and I decided to go and celebrate the fact that I'm not a drug addict or an alcoholic by having a drink. And this was right outside of Durham, in a small town called Willington in England. And there's only one bar there. I sat there, refused to leave, drank everything. Willington is not a big place, but I found all the drugs there were in Willington. I used them all to celebrate the fact that I didn't have a problem. And this is how insane I was. I didn't see how wrong and how absurd it was. So around 6 o'clock in the morning, I realized there was 6 hours until I would have to be in my own graduation. I hadn't even changed my clothes. So I stumbled back, high as a kite, and I remember the disappointment in my lieutenant's eyes. I'll never forget it. But like the other 3 guys, they came there prim and proper, and I was there, like still wasted. Well, they let me graduate, and they gave me a job. I started bodyguarding. It was really exciting in the beginning, but there was like a lot of bullshit and lies around it, because like I was drinking a lot. I was just using a lot, and the Icelandic media was always following me, and like I was always lying. I was always, and making it exciting, because I felt I had to make it exciting, and I had to be something, be somebody. And I went back, studied more with them, and got then the position as a team leader. And I traveled the world into some of the most problematic places on the planet. A part of me loved it, and a part of me hated it. When I say hated it, I had this fantasy of dying a heroic death. I was so dramatic, so full of self-pity that I didn't want to kill myself, but I wanted people to remember me as a good man, blah, 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 that, I made a difference. So I was always fantasizing about my own death. I wanted to die. And this just, I wanted to go out in the blaze of glory while doing something decent. And the problem was I just didn't die. And I started using more and more and more. I was always, my drug of choice was vodka and cocaine. And there came a point that I did nothing without having something in my blood. I just didn't function without it. And I wasn't partying all the time. I was just self-medicating. I was trying to function. I was trying to take down the pain. And there came a time that they had enough of me, and I would either resign on the spot or I would get fired. So I go home straight into rehab, back to Iceland, into rehab. And when I come back to Iceland, to Reykjavik, which is a city of 250,000 people or thereabout, I realized how small everything is in Iceland. After traveling the world and being all over the planet, I realized how small it is and how naive it is. I went into this rehab, and I honestly wanted to quit. I wanted to change my life. And so I sat on the front row in somebody else's pajamas, and thinking back at it, I didn't think about it back then, but nobody sat next to me, nobody really talked to me, because I think I was just completely insane. And I've been told afterwards that I wasn't very pleasant. But I sat there with my notebook, took notes. I wanted to get sober. When I say I wanted to get sober, I wanted a better life. I wanted a better life. And so, again, the message that I took from this, I have to go to fellowship meetings, and I would have to get a sponsor and not do anything big, don't take any big decisions the first few years, and all kinds of things. It sounded really odd to me. But I decided to, try it. And I went to a meeting, and the third meeting that I went to, there was a girl that went up to the podium, was sharing about a dog that died 5 years earlier, started crying, and this is how arrogant, broken, and this is just how I was back then. I stood up in front of probably 50 people, told them what I thought about them, and it was nothing nice. And I walked out promising myself I would never in my life walk into any kind of meeting of this sort ever again. But I decided to stay sober. I started 3 companies in 3 months. 2 of them started making money, a decent amount of money. But the same thing started happening again. My life became dull. My life became so nothing was exciting. Nothing made me happy. And of course, I hadn't changed anything. I was still lying, cheating, I was still displaying all the broken behavior patterns that I've always had. And so I remember I took a decision, sober, to go back into crime, because I remember the days in Denmark. I felt good. I felt like I was somebody, that finally I could be someone. So I called together a team, and long story short, we flooded Iceland and Scandinavia with cocaine, and I started making insane amounts of money. I did this, like, in the beginning. I was sober in the beginning. It was super exciting. It kept me alive. When I say it kept me alive, like, I wanted to live. I had something exciting. I had something that made me tick. But after a few years, this wasn't exciting anymore at all. I was isolated. I was isolating quite a lot. Again, I couldn't tell the truth for the life of me. Like, even small matters, I lied about everything. Every single word that came out of my mouth was a lie. Both for the reasons of what I was doing in reality, and just for the fact that I was so insecure. I could not get anybody, like, get to know me, get close to me. I just couldn't. And there came a point in my life that I decided to kill myself, and I was sober. Because vodka and cocaine did not work, being sober did not work, and I felt hopeless. I felt completely hopeless. And so I decided to kill myself, and I went into my gun cabinet, picked up my favorite pistol, and I started going through bullets, sitting in my office, crying my eyes out, the dramatic music on, you can imagine. And since there was a brick of cocaine in my gun cabinet, and so I decided to do a line before I would kill myself, because I was anyways going to die. And I did. I remember, like, instantly, it hit me, like, why the hell did I think it was a good idea to be sober? I packed away the gun, the bullets, everything, ordered some vodka, scraped more of, there were the next 9 months of my life where I was like a rocket with a broken stick. I just went everywhere and anywhere, constant using, couldn't stop, and yeah, was absolutely no control, none. And so I ended up as one of 3 main guys in a criminal case, drug-related criminal case, and I get arrested. And I can honestly say what led up to it, some of it I don't even know what happened or how things happened. Or I went all over the world. Well, I traveled a lot, and I met all kinds of people, and somehow just everything went downhill because I had no control of nothing. My life was about using and nothing else. I was charged with 16 years because, it was a serious case, but the more they investigated it, they saw that it wasn't as serious as it looked in the beginning. So while I was sitting in an isolation cell for 32 days, my life was, this is a small community, Iceland, it's all in all 330,000 people approx. And I was a very well-known person in my society. My life was plastered, like, I was on the front page of every newspaper, every news, hour, everything. There isn't much that happens there, so this was it. Like, they found out about my girlfriends, my mistresses, like, me lying, just everything. My life was exposed completely for what I had been, and I was exposed for being me. I couldn't hide anymore. So when I was let out after 32 days, I had nowhere to go. Nobody wanted to talk to me except one person. I had one friend, and I had nowhere to go but to a place that I was renting, because everything was taken off me. Everything, all my cars, everything, just all the money, everything. And I got attacked the day after by someone. I got stabbed a few times the day after I got released. And I was, even then, I walked from that place to the hospital, which is quite a walk. bleeding quite heavily. Not a single soul would even stop the car to pick me up because everybody knew who I was. Everybody saw me as a dangerous person. Everybody like turned their backs at me for a good reason this time. But for me, it was again, I felt abandoned. I felt really, really low self-pity and just, yeah. I decided, look, I was trying to stay sober again. It didn't work, and everything I touched, I was released after isolation. I was out for, if I remember correctly, it was 5 months approximately. And I tried. I started a nightclub that just didn't work. I got hired on a fishing boat. We sank. Everything I touched just turned into shit, quite literally. And I see it now. Well, my view on it now is it's called karma. And so when I was finally going in to serve my sentence, I was quite relieved. I was. Everybody knew who I was. I couldn't hide. I couldn't lie. Nobody trusted me. Nobody wanted to see me. And so for me to go and serve my sentence was a relief. I decided when I went to prison that I would do everything I could to change my life. And I started working on it straight away when I went in. And in the beginning, it was really tough. Like I read a lot of self-help books. I read a lot of methods, how to get sober, how to fix your life. I started, joining the fellowship into AA, got a sponsor, did the 12 steps. I started feeling better and slightly better. And I remember I started getting rewarded for what I was doing. I started in maximum security and I ended up in a very open and good prison, which that prison, I can honestly say, helped me a lot. It did. It helped me a lot. When I was set free, I went into a halfway house afterwards, and that helped me a lot. I could, go to meetings, I could meet my sponsor, the man that ran the house there helped me a lot. And so I finally accepted help. But like everything else in my life, I did this full force. And I forgot to mention, while I was in prison and throughout my life, I've always been training a lot, like powerlifting, weightlifting, sports. But when I came out of prison, I had been training like there was no tomorrow, and I was very big and strong. And soon after I got released, I got a phone call where I got offered to compete in Iceland's Strongest Man, which was one of my childhood dreams. And this was in 2007, and so everybody had money back then. It's right before the crash, and I was very optimistic. I was going to do just like every other competitor and ask for sponsorships. Obviously, no company wanted to put their name on me or be associated with me, and I felt again really abandoned, really just rejected, and felt really sorry for myself. And so I called my sponsor. He told me to pray on it. I declined that very, impolitely. But I did. I went home and I prayed on it. Well, I said something like this in my mind, if you're there, you take it over, I give up. Because if this is what I should do, you do it. 3 days later, I got a phone call. And there was a guy that introduced himself and said he was an investor, and he asked me if it was true that I needed money to compete. I instantly got really angry at him. I thought he was there was something, sinister behind his charities or I got really angry at him. And he started laughing, and he had been warned that I might react this way. And the reason why he said, well, while you were in prison, I asked him, why do you want to help me? Like, why would you give me money? And he said, well, the reason why is when you were in prison, you did prison time with my cousin. And when he was, next in line, basically, because prison is not a nice place to be bullied or, you can imagine, you stopped it. And otherwise, I'm not sure he would have, made it. And I remember I helped a lot of people in prison, but I helped them my style. If I did anything for anybody, they owed me. They were either cleaning my cell or I was eating their food or something. And I felt, that was my way of living. But this guy, I never gave it a second thought, ever. I did it because I liked him and we're still friends today. And it's like with a lot of other things in my life, it hit me. Like all those times that I've been reading about in self-help books, in religion, like unconditional good deeds, they pay off. And being me, I got my proof there. So I just started doing a lot of those unconditional good deeds. And long story short, this investor paid for my career in strongman. I started competing in strongman. Was the third strongest man of Iceland. In 3 years, eighth strongest man of Europe. And I loved it. But I remember I set myself a goal. If I would get this far in my sport, then I would feel whole, then I would feel like somebody. But nothing changed. And it's when I started realizing that, I was just a lost little boy in a big man's body. And I was a terrified little boy in a big man's body. It didn't matter how big I was, how strong I was, how successful I was, or what I was doing on the outside. I was always the same terrified little boy. So I started working a little bit on myself. Well, a little bit, eventually a lot. I had to work a lot on my childhood traumas. I had to work a lot on codependency. I was deeply codependent. My living problem, when I say a living problem, the reason why I drank and used cocaine is because I had a living problem. I was always self-medicating from me, my issues and my problems. And my living problem mainly, it stems from childhood traumas, but I developed broken behavior patterns which are called codependency. I wanted to be liked by everyone. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be accepted. I had insane abandonment issues. I couldn't be honest. So all those things I took with me in the beginning into my sobriety. So it took me quite a lot of time to work on those so I would be happily sober. And I stopped competing when I realized that I was getting obsessive about it. It was nothing else entered my mind. But I reached the goals that I set out to get. And I started running a business, like small businesses here and there. I turned into Mr. AA. Basically, I was my house was like a halfway house. I was sponsoring, I was working with people in prisons, and I was very, very active. And I had a long period of time where I felt really good. And I was very happy being me. But I became arrogant. I didn't need as much help. I didn't need as many meetings. I didn't need to talk to a sponsor. I knew it all. And I started slowly but surely, started lying, like tiny bits here and there. And it snowballs. For me, I can't. I just can't. And so I stopped going to meetings. I stopped, I cut slowly all connections with my sobriety, that side of me. And this is after 11 years of sobriety. And I was in Serbia. I got a very upsetting phone call, and which was, very painful phone call. And I had no resistance, none whatsoever. The first thing I did, I grabbed the bottle and I started drinking. Like, it didn't take a millisecond. There was no stopping, nothing. I remember while I was drinking the first drink, I promised myself there would be no drugs. That lasted for 15 minutes. I stood up from the meeting I was on and went downtown and found drugs. So it was like I had never stopped. I was back on it full time. And it took me 2 years to stand up. Even if I knew it all, I knew what to do, where to get help, I was just always going to do it tomorrow, next week. I always gave myself excuses. And I turned into this lying, terrified little boy again. But luckily I had really, really good friends and strong connections within the sober community back home. And with their help, I stood up again. But it was really tough. It was really, really tough to do so. I decided, do everything I could to be happily sober. So I put even more work into fixing my living problem. It's not enough for me to be just sober. It isn't. And I want to be happy. I want to be joyful. And now I can honestly say, a few years down the line, I am happily sober. I am. I love being me. I wake up happy. I go to sleep happy most days. And I don't have all those issues. I'm still insane. I always will be. I still get crazy ideas. I still there is this sesh gremlin that lives in me. He's still there. But I don't interact with him, and he's just a part of me. This is a part of me and will always be. But I feel good. I'm happy being me. It's just, for me, I don't want to be anybody else. And I know a lot of people relate to that. I was always fantasizing, why can't I just be somebody else? And I'm not terrified anymore. This gaping hole inside me isn't there anymore. It comes, it doesn't. If I skip my program for X amount of time, it comes again. So it's still there. But if I do what I need to do and carry on doing it, I'm fine. And what I did, I moved here to Spain. I'm in Spain. I live in Spain now. I've been living here now for 3.5 years. And I had obsessed about what would be the best way to get people happily sober for years. And so I decided to give it a try. And this is the outcome. I now own and operate Solice Recovery. I don't feel like I work a single minute of my life because I enjoy doing what I do, even if I'm here more or less always. And I love it. People come here, they leave happy, and they stay happy. Most of them. And the fact is, for me, I found a way to be content, to accept me as I am, to love me. And I've also found a way to give that to others and to be able to communicate how to do it, what to do. And I was so lucky that since I opened up, I've almost gotten everybody that I wanted to work for me. And because I put a lot of effort and work into finding the best people, in my opinion. And I feel that I got a great team and we're doing a great job. They are doing a great job. So, yeah, I think that's it. Now, I just want to carry on. And I pray to God that I will be lucky enough, that I will be strong enough to just keep doing my program one day at a time until the day I die. Thank you.